So, Brian, you have 9 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Brian Rodgers. I'm with ChangeAustin.org. I support historic zoning and historic preservation, but not as the city currently administers a program, as you'll see. So one day last spring, I'm pulling into my driveway, and I look across the street, and I see my neighbor, Nick. Nick's stomping around in the yard waving his hands, and he sees me, and he comes across the street without regard to traffic. Nick is a cool, unruffleable fellow, but he's mad about his property taxes. He goes, Brian, what am I going to do? My appraisal just shot through the roof. I said, Nick, we're working on that. Well, so Nick solves his problem. He comes and he gets a historic tax exemption, and so Nick now gets $10,584 on an abatement. He went for it because it was about property tax, not about historic exemption. Both sides of my house have historic exemptions. Now Eddie, who lives next to Nick, he's getting his. Now he's one of the people that are going after an exemption. So there's a little gold rush on my street. This is my house. That's a beautiful house. I think maybe I should go and get my exemption, right? So the entire neighborhood will be exempted from taxes, and we'll just offload our exemptions, our taxes on everyone else. What a world. Let's look down. This is a guy in Old Enfield. It's probably got a gold rush. This guy's got y'all granted him $22,884 annually forever in tax abatements. This guy here with a Mercedes, $36,164 annually in perpetuity. This guy takes the cake, literally. The cake, the silverware, the china, $45,000 annually forever. The thing about this fella here is his house was listed for $5.9 million. Well, it's on the tax rolls for only $2.9, so he's already getting a 50% tax break. All right? Now he's got the abatement of $45,000. But look, the pool houses were constructed in the 1960s when a new den was added, 2 porches were enclosed, a new garage and breezeway were constructed. In 1999, a conservatory was added. Well, okay, all of that stuff gets the abatement also. That's just not fair. On Tuesday, I met with a local historic preservation architect who told me that Austin has the most generous program in the country. So I made some phone calls and did some research. I called Charleston, South Carolina, Dallas, this was just yesterday, Galveston, San Antonio, and Alexandria, Virginia. Nobody gives away more than Austin, not by any stretch. I spoke with Al Cox, the historic preservation manager for Alexandria, Virginia, who was kind enough to spend 20 minutes on the phone with me. Mr. Cox is a fellow in the AIA and became Alexandria's first city architect. He left an award-winning practice in Dallas in 1991, where he was also director of the Dallas Historic Preservation League and project manager of the restoration of the Texas Governor's Mansion in the 1980s. I told Mr. Cox about Austin's tax abatements. He was speechless. He had never heard of any kind of abatement program like ours. He said, quote, "That's the most generous I've ever heard of for historic preservation." That's coming from a guy who knows. But he explained how Alexandria's program works, and I think we could all learn something from it. For example, let's say the homeowner grants a preservation easement that covers the facade of their house. The value of the easement is appraised, it's donated to a nonprofit in perpetuity, and the homeowner gets a deduction on their federal tax return. I think he said the average facade easement is worth about $100,000. So you get the conservation easement, and then you get that amount, and it can be carried forward and applied against your personal income taxes for the next 5 years. So, okay, so the federal government will pay for these privileges, but you don't have to put it on the citizens. So, in fact, there's other kinds of preservation easements, open space around the building, interior preservation easements, but again, it's a one-time thing, and it comes off the federal income taxes. But now it's budget time in Austin, and we're going to hear about all the sacrifices that we citizens need to make while you guys are giving money away to mansion owners. Let's put a moratorium on owner-initiated historic zoning requests for a few months. You can still leave staff-initiated requests in place. There are far better answers than what you have come up with. on this quick fix with no input from critics, which accomplishes nothing in the total likely to be approved during this interim period. The latest solution intends to put a fixed cap on the city's portion, but let's not pretend that the city's responsibility ends there. We all know that when the city says yes, it automatically approves AISD, Travis County, and ACC. Austin is the driver in this process. And these taxing jurisdictions don't perform their own historical worthiness exam. They depend on the city of Austin. If Austin is a poor gatekeeper in the process, then AISD, ACC, and Travis County all suffer needless tax loss. Your responsibility extends to the entire tax abatement of all of these jurisdictions. The solutions of the new guidelines in the memo only demonstrate how willing you all are to release your death grip on these abatements. It's like bargaining with an addict on cutting down their use. I promise to cut back the matching giveaways to only 1 per month, unless nobody is using it, and I can go back to 3 a month or 36 per year. And I promise to study the issue and limit my future intake. I feel like I've gotten to know each of you somewhat over time, and for the life of me, I don't understand why you don't see the stunning disconnect between granting these wealthy owners, lavishing all of these benefits on them on taxes, while the ordinary citizens are struggling to make ends meet. We were doing property tax workshops all around the city, and people are, frankly, scared. They used to be angry about their property tax, and now they're scared that they'll be able to even stay in their houses. It's a real problem, and, you know, come election time, somebody's going to run ads that say mayor/council member blank, insert your name here, voted 50 times to give these wealthy homeowners giant tax breaks. Then we roll the mansions 2 per second. So if you think Jennifer Kim's Vera Wang stemware played well to the populace, you can imagine how this will burn down a campaign. And if you don't believe me, we can all call David Butts. Maybe he'll tell us. So let me just finish by saying the Statesman editorial last December said, by now, the City Council must be aware that its historic Landmarks program has become a tax giveaway for the wealthy. City Council members would be wise to immediately suspend the program until they tighten up the criteria which invites such abuse and revise tax breaks that are too generous. Amen to that. Thank you.